I'm pleased to be joined on Primetime Local News today with an author, and we're going to be talking about an amazing book today. Bruce Olav Solheim is here with us today. Bruce, thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you, Stacy.
Well, we want to get into this right away because when I saw the title of this book and read what it's about, it's very, very interesting. So tell me about the book, and I guess we'll start with how it came to be, because it's just such an interesting story.
Well, yeah, thank you. Well, let's see. The book is about an ancient alien mystic whom I have been in pretty constant contact with for the last 3 years. And I'm a professor of history, regular academic. And in 2016, I had a vision experience with a friend of mine who had just passed away. And he told me that it was time. So he was speaking to me from beyond the grave, right? And he told me that it was time for me to tell all of my stories. And I've led a paranormal life since I was 4 years old, everything from ghosts to angels and, telekinesis, telepathy, you name it, and also alien contact. So I decided to start writing books. I wrote 3 books, Timeless Deja Vu, Timeless Trinity. And then this is a separate book. It's the 4th book, but it focuses just on this particular entity. And like I said, he's an ancient alien mystic. So the book is, half of it is my research into how the spirit world, the alien world, and the quantum world are all the same thing. And I did a lot of research. There's a lot of footnotes in there. And the second half of the book is the actual transcripts of my conversations with Anzar. And what happens is I take these spirit walks and I communicate with him, and I record everything that I'm hearing and what I'm saying. And then I transcribe it. So I was working off of like 300 pages of notes that I put in the second half of the book. And it's pretty fascinating stuff. Most of the best stuff in the book is what he told me, not what I say, but what he says.
Now, we don't want to give too much away, Bruce, because we want people to actually check out the book for themselves. But what are the types of things when you have these conversations with Anzar that he tells you? Is it specifically related to you? Is it global? Is it, for the future, for people in general? Or what are some of the things that are discussed when you make contact?
Yeah, it's a little bit of all of what you said. He often gives me preparations. He says there's certain things that are going to be happening. You need to be prepared. I tend to call them predictions, but he's always very cautious, and he says predictions can be wrong, but preparations are never wrong. So because there's too many variables. But he has told me, I can just share a couple of things. A year before COVID hit, he told me that there was going to be a series of calamities that would impact not just the Americas, but the whole world, which it has. And he said that millions of people would die. And he said it was tragic, it was horrible. And so that I was as prepared as I could be, my wife and I. And then, for instance, in September of last year, he told me that there would be what he called a pocket revolution here in the United States. And he also used the word insurrection, which, of course, on January 6th, we had the attack on the Capitol. So he does give me this information kind of ahead of time and gives me preparation. But it's not only that, it's how to prepare for what he calls a leap of consciousness, which everybody knows. All this UFO stuff is very hot right now. And here in the US, the Congress is getting a report from the intelligence agencies and the Department of Defense, and it's due the 25th of June. And he's been telling me all along what's going on. And the thing is that he wants us to know that it's you can't just sit around and wait for the government to tell you what's true and what's not true. You have to figure it out yourself, what he calls a leap of consciousness. And not a disclosure, but a revelation, an individual revelation. So he's been preparing me for the last 3 years. And I don't consider myself special. I'm just a regular professor, guy, academic person. But I've been given this unique opportunity to share this. And I understand, I always like to talk about skepticism because I'm skeptical myself sometimes, to pinch myself and everything. So skepticism is good. And that's how I start off the book. Like if you were to tell me 10 years ago, if you were to tell me, oh, I speak to an ancient alien mystic, I'd probably be very polite and, okay, that's great, and then try to make a quick exit. But I know it's hard for people sometimes to accept, but we have to know that we are living in very unique times. Very, there's a paradigm shift going on of consciousness.
Bruce, why you? Do you have any idea why you were chosen to speak with Anzar and to get these messages? As I guess with all the people in the world, right?
Yeah,
How was
yeah.
it that you were chosen?
Well, I think he's been with me my whole life. And I've had a very paranormal life. My mom was very psychic. I've had a lot of things happen to me, but I was afraid to share them. I was afraid I'd lose my job. Before I was a academic, I was in the military. I worked at Boeing as a defense contractor. So those are not places where you can share this kind of information. So it took a lot for me to start sharing it, and much less talking about Anzar. So I think that I'm kind of a lightning rod for the paranormal. And some people just are. They just, for whatever reason, I think it's both a blessing and a curse in a way. Until I learned how to manage it, it could be very disturbing, to walk into a party and hear what people are thinking, and their intentions. And so it made me where I didn't want to go to parties, but now I've learned to kind of tune it out when I need to and tune it in when I want to.
Well, Bruce, it's been a pleasure speaking with you today. This is so interesting. Once again, for our viewers, can you tell them the title of the book and where they can find not just the book, but the rest of your work as well?
Oh, sure. Thank you, Stacy. The book is called Anzar the Progenitor, which is the first contact. And it's available on Amazon, and all of my work, all of my books, the other timeless books I mentioned, are available or are mentioned in my website, bruceolavsolheim.com. And my middle name spelled O-L-A-V, last name spelled S-O-L-H-E-I-M.
Well, Bruce, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today, and we look forward to chatting with you again in the future.
Thank you, Stacy.